no matter what.
Hey guys, good morning. It's your girl Alana here. Welcome back to 3 Degrees of Love, 3 Degrees of Love Divination. So I just wanted to, jump on real quick and do another video. I woke up not that long ago and I happened to be messaging back and forth with a friend, a new friend of mine that I met online, and talking a lot about shadow work. And actually, I think I've been discussing that that concept for a long time now. Hearing a lot about it, floating around, the spiritual community, sort of what I've done or been doing and continue to do in therapy for myself. Being stuck in isolation gives you a lot of time to think, and process things. And like I go back and I refer to the tag that I had started, my first tag ever, shadow work, you say, and really and truly the motivation behind that tag was to challenge everyone on the concept of shadow work and what that means, and to really be able to examine what that is like, right? Because from what I have been, noticing, not only just, of, in myself and those around me, and even as I further dive into this spiritual work and being on YouTube and things like that, and spending a lot of time watching other content creators and things like that, and the interactions that I've had with them, and as I reflect on those things, and those interactions, both good and bad, that's one of the things that keeps coming up, is the concept of shadow work and what that really means. What does that mean when we talk about doing the work and facing our shadows, and so it brings me back to the old Christian prayer, the Lord's Prayer, the 23rd Psalm, and for those of you who know it, from either because that is still what you're still a Christian and currently practicing, so what I'm talking about, or maybe you've left that behind because of trauma, because of whatever else. But either way, the words still remain the same and still ring true, and it's something to lean on, and what helps me to stay grounded, and and especially in the moments I talk about shadow work, and I talk about doing that and doing the introspection and doing the therapy and and working with the cards and enhancing all that, again, it goes back to one of the things that recently that I heard said by the wonderful Lumera Star, when when we talk about, you know, and divination and pulling cards and things like that, you know, it's great to be doing the work on your own, but, you know, it only gets you so far, right? When we look at maintaining ourselves and our mental health and, you know, and our overall wellness, you know, and what that looks like, there are several different components that have to add up to you know, to make us whole. And that's the same thing when it when it comes to trauma and, you know, and examining these parts of ourselves that are one, scary, you know, there's a lot of to impact, and you know, and just even you know, programming. If you remember a reading I did recently, and posted video, I talked about you know, unlearning, and there were the 3 cards that I had pulled from you know, and I'm still working with these decks, actually. The Guiding Light Tarot, and the Black Tarot, and the African Tarot, all by Brigh. You know, and you know, and the understanding of unlearning, having to unlearn, learning how to unlearn, right? And this is, you know, the concepts that have, you know, that keep us stuck, that keep us in this negativity, that keep us, you know, you know, from achieving success and forward movement, you know. And it kind of goes back to, you know, another YouTuber who that I've been, you know, watching even since before the pandemic, you know, the Heart Alchemist, Christina Lobes. And, you know, one of her earlier videos, she talks about, well, earlier, as in for this, you know, this year, since 2023 started, and maybe even just a little bit before, she talks about the concept of you know, of this year being the year for transformation, right? And you know, and seeing a way through. Well, the way through it's through the darkness, right? We hear a lot about, you know, the idea of beauty. We talk a lot about beauty and, you know, the understanding of the lotus flower, right? The lotus flower essentially grows and develops in the muck, in the mud, right? In the cold grossness, and emerges into this beautiful, pure, you know, essence of what it is, right? You know, and that's essentially the same concept, you know, to think about when it comes to, you know, to human, to every sort of life form, right? You know, right from you know, conception to, you know, to birth, it's in the darkness. We grow in the darkness, right? You know, so running away from the darkness and not facing it, you know, it only grows, you know, and gets worse. The same idea of diamonds. Diamonds form and become the beauty that they are, through immense amount of pressure. So the idea of people, and understanding who we are, as the more as I put everything together in spirituality and mental health and, everything, the more and more it starts to, make sense for me. As I've mentioned before, my therapist sort of, the work that I've been doing talk a lot about, our feelings and essentially who we are and them being children because they're irrational, right? And so when we talk about self-awareness and we talk about, knowing who we are, well, we're embracing all that is. And when you think about it, as individuals and we walk our various paths, and as those look differently for all of us, when we think about who we are as people, and as we grow and develop throughout our lives, I'll take myself for example, and as I and sort of the concept of self-awareness and stuff, right? So nowadays, as I'm putting into practice what I'm learning, as I do this deep dive and the shadow work and stuff like that in therapy, and I'm becoming more self-aware about my parts and my feelings and everything like that, I realize when I refer to me, I'm not just referring to the me now and in the present, right? Like that is the main focus. The main focus is the me in the present, right? Because we can only live in the present. Everything else is, sort of concepts and imagination and memory, right? And stuff like that. So, with that, and we talk about the understanding of trauma and emotional baggage and all of that, right? Imagine in the present moment, if you were to close your eyes, when you wake up the first thing in the morning, and you think about yourself, you think about everything that you've ever experienced and you lived up until now. Well, all of that and everything you've ever experienced is a part of you, right? You wake up every morning and you aren't just the you in the present moment. You are the you that you have ever been. And as we go through life and we experience things, we carry the spirit of who we are in every one of those moments throughout our life, right? The thoughts, the experiences, the trauma, everything is wrapped up into those various versions of ourselves that we carry with us as we continue to grow as people. And as we grocery shop, if you will, right, of experiences, and as we navigate our lives and things like that, the more and more stuff and trauma and all of that stuff gets dumped into that grocery cart, right? And we push that around with us, you know. And so essentially, if you are not confronting, you know, the 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 mistakes, the experiences, anything that you've ever experienced that has, that, you know, good or bad, it's all there. It's all there in you know, in that bank that we carry, that grocery cart, essentially, you know, our mind, you know, our memories, everything, all of that is there. So if we don't confront the patterns, we don't, you know, face the errors of our ways, you know, as individuals, and take responsibility for those, then we will continue, you know, to cycle through those same negative cycles. And if we are also holding on to past hurt, past pain, past trauma, you know, and if we've ever had to face rejection and you know, all of those things that has ever plagued us, well, we carry that with us. If you know, that all that darkness, all of that continues to follow us, right? And it's not until we confront those and work through those can we truly heal and grow from it. Otherwise, we're just like that, you know, there's that video of that little girl who sees her shadow for the first time and is like running scared and falls all over the place, crying and screaming, right? Well, essentially, you know, we are that inside, right? We carry those aspects of ourselves throughout our lives. So the older we are, and the more time that has passed, and we have not faced those shadows, and we continuously run away from them, it's the scarier and the bigger they become. The scarier, bigger versions of ourselves that will continue to follow us and continue to impact us in everything that we do, good and bad. And if there is a lot of pain and there's a lot of suffering and there's a lot of trauma that is experienced, well, that is a lot, that's heaviness. That's this the heavy, dense energy that will continue to move forward and continue to weigh us down. You know, and that's why the shadow work is important. You know, not just for ourselves as individuals, but for the greater good, for the collective, for the greater good of all humanity, right? Because what we do, you know, as we know, and we're all connected, when we interact with one another, everything that we carry, good and bad, you know, as we continue to you know, to interact with one another, those will all have impacts, right? You know, I talk about Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages. I talk, you know, about, oh my gosh, all of a sudden the name escapes me. John Townsend and I forget who the other one was, but in regards to safe people and boundaries, you know, to me these are important resources, you know, to aid us, you know, as you know, we dive into shadow work, you know, and understanding that, yes, you know, as I talk about love and every aspect of that, you know, and why I talk about that being important, right? Because self-love is important. It starts with us. When we can accept ourselves for who we are and all that we are, good and bad, and be able to see that and recognize that for ourselves, that is the only way that we can see and recognize that in others, right? And so if we, as you know, can wrap our head around the concept of, you know, I am me and have been me, you know, for X amount of years, well, then, you know, what you see, you know, and I don't just mean what you see when you look in the mirror, or what you see in those around you interact with you on a daily basis, are other selves. Are other selves walking around that, you know, are not just themselves in that present moment, but are also themselves that they've been for the length of time that they've, you know, been alive, you know, and also, you know, so, and with that, if we can understand that, we can also understand that the same way we have traumatic pasts and we carry that with us, you know, right? And the experience and the impact that, you know, we and the influence we have on one another, well, that's another thing that will, you know, that until we confront those things and the errors of, you know, our past and stuff like that, it's just going to continue to grow and build. So, you know, in the present moment, you know, in society, what we're going through, you know, those are things to be mindfully aware, you know, of, and how we you know, and how we communicate, you know. So when we talk about triggers, you know, and the things that, you know, upset us and trigger us, essentially, you know, and especially, you know, talking about trauma responses and understanding, you know, what those are, where those come from and why, you know, when you have a better understanding of yourself and how you respond, you have a better, you're better attuned to be able to empathize with other people, to be able to imagine what that might be like for them, right? And so when I talk about the importance of shadow work, and I talk about the importance of therapy, there, you know, the understanding that these are also concepts that are you know, for a lot of us, are hard for us to wrap our head around, and we need guidance, right? So we need people who, you know, like therapists and social workers and doctors and all of that, who are, you know, the experts, because, you know, they've been taught and trained, you know, in these areas. Why it's important that we, you know, that we utilize, you know, all that there is. You know, we're facing a global mental health crisis, you know, and when we can take stock of to why and what's going on and how we can address those things, you know, that is how, you know, we can grow and better support one another. You know, so it doesn't just go the, you know, the idea of shadow work and stuff like that, it's not one-sided. It you know, there isn't, you can't just go down to one area of the basement, essentially, and think that you've done shadow work. No. It's much bigger than just going down those few steps and turning on essentially and pulling that cord in the basement, you know, for a little bit of illumination. No. The shadows go far deeper than that. And the older you are, and the more trauma and the more darkness have had to face, well, the bigger the basement and the more darkness there is to face, right? And so that, you know, to me, it's never too late to start, but sooner is always better than later. Because as the darkness grows, the more there is to face, and the more strength and the more time is going to take to evoke that healing. So, you know, I've been, you know, chatting with you guys for the last, you know, 26 minutes, you know, and I hope that what I've had to say here today, you know, really, you know, sort of gives you a better understanding of you know, when I talk about shadow work, and I feel when a lot of people talk about shadow work, you know, it's, you know, that is something to, you know, to really hold on to, in, you know, in what I'm saying. And shadow work isn't just, you know, for the healing of just yourself, right? But for those around you, for the greater good, right? Shadow work isn't just about confronting, you know, those uncomfortable feelings and those things that have hurt you, but it is also examining yourself and looking at the areas in which you have negatively impacted others, and how you can change that toxic behavior for the greater good, right? You know, and how you come across, you know, we talk about oftentimes, we talk about the concept of freedom of speech, right? And words and communication and things like that, you know. But, you know, if we are having as individuals a hard time accepting ourselves, and we haven't faced those shadow and we haven't done that shadow work, you know, for self-love and self-healing, you know, and we continuously operate from a pain of isolated darkness, you know, and we haven't, you know, we haven't challenged that, we haven't faced that, you know, we're gonna walk around with the, you know, the you know, the self-entitlement, you know, always, until we face it, right? So, you know, to say that, to say that you're uncomfortable with something that somebody has said, you know, part of the healing and part of the shadow work is to be able to sit with that and recognize that and figure out why that is, right? Because at the end of the day, words are words, and it's us that gives it meaning, right? You know, so if we are uncomfortable with something, and you know, that's something that is being said, and especially if it's not being directed at us, right? We have to look at, why does that make us uncomfortable, and how we can work through that. That part of the shadow work, that part of it is our responsibility, right? You know, how we then are going to respond and react to, you know, to others as a result, you know, that is also our responsibility as individuals, right? You know, they say that what you don't like for yourself, you mustn't give it to others, and, you know, treat other people with kindness as you would want them to, you know, to do for you. And if you were a person who has faced cruelty and adversity and you know, just you know, rejection and lack of, you know, of acceptance, you know, then the understanding that we, you know, yes, you know, we're reflection of one another, and love and understanding, you know, and the understanding of everyone having, you know, the freedom of speech and the, you know, and free will and all of that. I talk about the idea that it's not the practice, it's the intent, right? It's the will. You know, and so if something is not being directed at you, you know, then, you know, really examining, you know, why that may be, you know, bothersome for you is something to, you know, to really think about, you know. And so, you know, and even and yes, you know, love and support and things like that, and we have feelings, and as human beings, and things affect us, right? You know, look at our world today and everything, and the concepts that, you know, that we are, the adversities and everything that we are continuously struggling to face, and, you know, and it only gets worse. You know, I think, and as I reflect back on to things like, you know, the pandemic and how, you know, things are, you know, as I said, I've had to turn off the news because, you know, it's been very triggering, you know, in the last several years. And as I do the, you know, the shadow work and therapy and all of that, and putting it all together, you know, one of the things, actually, there's been a few things that I feel that, you know, to really understand this concept of what I'm talking about, you know, really, you know, paints a very clear picture, right? And I talk about, you know, movies and you know, the relation with that, right? When I talk about chakra work, and the understanding of what chakras are, you know, the best movie that, to me, that comes to mind to be able to explain that, well, that's Trolls. You know, any of those, you know, the first one, I feel more so speaks to understanding chakras, you know, from the self and self-love as individuals. Excuse me. And the second one, if you haven't seen it, you know, Trolls World Tour, well, to me, that's now understanding, taking the idea, and that concept of, you know, of chakra work and self, you know, and now looking at it beyond, you know, just self, and seeing that there's more to life than just you, right? Just the physical individual you, you know, and, you know, and the impact. And so when I talk about it, also embracing, you know, and doing the shadow work, and, you know, not just going to the bottom of the steps, the basement steps, so to speak, and turning on the one light, you know, and really exploring the entire basement. Well, we're exploring everything that we are, right? You know, and that includes race, religion, you know, like I said, various traumas and things that we've gone through. And when we have that self-awareness and we can, understand ourselves as individuals and the impact that life has had on us, and the impact that what we choose to do can affect other people, because we live in a world with other beings, right? It's not just the one person. We don't walk around on planet Earth all by ourselves. No, right? There's many of us. So every choice we make, everything we do impacts another being, right? So when we start to operate, from this place of self, without the self-awareness of other people and the consideration of other people, then that's how we continuously continue to trigger and keep us stuck in these negative cycles, right? So for example, if you're a person who regardless of who you identify as, you have to pay attention to the facts. So if and the facts for me here in this present moment is that I, Alana, who's speaking to you today, about love and 3 degrees of love. Well, I am a 40-year-old black straight woman, and I am not just 40 years worth of me. I am 40 years work of me, my ancestors, my upbringing, my family history, medically speaking, the whole works, right? I'm all of those things. And I'm all of those things in the present moment. So if I'm triggered by something or someone, right? All of that, comes into play, right? So if I'm triggered and I'm hurt and and I want to it be heard, I have to remember that, not only about who I am, but about who other people are. And as I myself take stock of that and am a being entitled to to be treated fairly and to be treated equally, and to love each other as I would, I would hope and expect that others are doing the same, because to me that is what love and kindness and consideration is all about, right? And taking stock of ourselves. So I'm here speaking to you today, and talking to you with the right of freedom of speech to say you know, and you know, who I am, and to be able to describe that. And as I'm describing that, and I'm using words, right? I'm using words to describe me. And if something I'm saying, it, you know, makes you uncomfortable, you know, the choice is yours on how you want to then deal with that. Are you going to dive, you know, deeper into that, into understanding why that may be a problem? Or are you going to cheat yourself and others by by saying that, you know, well, okay, well, I don't like what that person's saying, you know, and that bothers me, and so therefore, you can choose to click off and you know, or not engage, right? But how are you doing that? Are you doing that respectfully and mindfully, in the sense of, you know, recognizing that as you are a person and you are entitled and you have your feelings, so does that other person? And being stuck and mindful of who you are and the impact that you may have? Or are you the type of person that just doesn't care, doesn't have any sort of regard for anybody else other than yourself, and, you know, and you're going to continue to follow in the behavior of, you know, of what you yourself as a person have done in the years that you've been alive? Or are you going to continue this, and are you going to continue that same way and continue to forge forth with all the false concepts and false sense of entitlement that you have carried with you throughout history, throughout your life, and, you know, and using that as a blind justification for why you feel that everyone must cater to you? That, when we can take stock and be able to confront those things about ourselves as individuals, that is how we can start the healing process, and how we're doing the shadow work for healing for ourselves as individuals. And ultimately, as you understand the concept of the butterfly effect, you are doing that for others as well. But you start with yourself, because you can't give, you can't, if you are not whole. You can't fly with one wing, right? You know, you won't be able to take off if there isn't solid ground to take off from. So, you know, again, you know, I challenge you to really dive deep and really think about what shadow work is all about and what that really means. It's not for the faint of heart. It is not an easy process, but it is necessary. It is necessary for growth. It is necessary for healing. It is necessary for the betterment and future development of us all. I don't say what I say lightly. I don't say what I say you know, to invoke pain or to trigger anyone, you know, negatively. I say it with love. I say it because I've been through it. I say it because as an empath, as a true empath, and someone who embodies the concept of love and truly with the understanding of what that means. Because I've done the work, I you know, and I've always walked that path of love in everything that I have ever done. My heart has always been wide open, and regardless of everything that I have ever been through, that I have continued to face, you know, those who have hurt me and negatively impacted me, you know, I've, you know, doing that work, it's a constant process, you know, and, but as I said, so worth it and so very necessary. And you know, I want to encourage others to do that. You know, the support is there. There are people like me, we are still around, you know, who genuinely love and care and want to see us all thrive. You know, and you know, and just, you know, purely, you know, want all of us to be happy. So, you know, as we continue to, you know, to progress in 2023, I hope that, you know, we can truly start to really, you know, as a whole in society, really support one another, you know, in this transition, in this process, you know, for healing and for better. And I know I certainly will be here, you know, to support others as I continue to do this work for myself, and will continue to share, you know, what that's like and what I'm learning, you know, with you, because that's, to me, that's what community, that's what support, that's what love is all about. And, you know, as I continue forward, you know, in this life, on that journey, that is you know, is what I hope to achieve. And I hope the same for you, because we are all deserving of love, each and every one of us, and no one is more deserving than another. So with that, I will leave you today, and I will say thank you for listening. Thank you for your support, for your love and your understanding. And, you know, let's continue to stick together and love and support one another, you know, for the evolution of humanity. So please, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. And until I see you again, don't forget to comment down below and let me know, you know, what do you think of everything? What are your thoughts? What do you have to share? I would love to hear from you. Respectfully, openly, and honestly. And until next time, don't forget to live, listen, and learn. I love you. Bye-bye.
Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. Gotta love, gotta love, gotta love one another. No matter what people want.